has cost U.S. taxpayers about $1 billion so far, and we are just getting started. So, what's the total bill going to be to prosecute this effort? Joining me now, investigative journalist and Daily Ledger contributor Kimberly Dvorak. Kimberly, we've been told that it's costing about $10 million, that's with an M, million dollars a day to prosecute this war. I think that's a terribly low figure when you consider things like cruise missiles coming in at $1.4 million each, and those things are raining down on Syria right now.
Yeah, you're looking, they are actually playing the numbers down, although we aren't striking every day, so they're trying to parlay the not striking every day into the numbers as an average. It's an estimate, a realistic estimate, what they're saying now, and what the DOD is going to have to go to Congress for after the election, of course, to get more money in the form of about $22 billion is what the number is going to be for about a year's worth of airstrikes and campaigns on the ground there in the Middle East.
Again, I think that's a lowball figure. And you figure, these aircraft carriers steaming up the Mediterranean or the Persian Gulf, that's costing a lot of fuel and a lot of money, taxpayer dollar money, to have those things right off the coast there. And the other irony here is that we're using these Tomahawk missiles and these F-22s, all this fine technology, to destroy fine U.S. technology that the Islamic State stole.
Yeah, absolutely. We are destroying the military arsenal that ISIS stole from the Iraqis. So the taxpayers not only are getting it caught out at once, but we're getting it twice. And I think going back to what the figures the military are using, I think they're trying to use an additional, because we already have our aircraft carriers in the region. So they're trying to get around the dollar number by saying this is over and above.
Yeah, now, on a side note, why don't we have a kill switch? Why don't we build it? We have all this technology. We should be able to have some sort of GPS-driven kill switch in Humvees or tanks, any other kind of armaments built in the United States with some sort of code to render them useless. You'd think, with all the technology we have, we could have a kill switch. Okay, but let's move on. Importantly, Europe is kind of piecemeal involved here. In the effort to degrade and destroy the Islamic State, as the president puts it. Where's Germany? Where's Italy? We know France and Great Britain has now pledged support, but it doesn't seem like there's a unified support against this effort.
Yeah, well, you've got to think that the European countries are a lot closer geographically speaking, at least here. So they're a little concerned about, the threats from ISIS as well as other terrorist organizations saying that, hey, you join this fight physically and we're going to come and, strike some, terrorist attacks, say something similar to the Madrid bombings in 2004. So they're very concerned about that. And they're also worried about this escalating into a regional war or a new Gulf War III, which some folks are calling it. And when you made your comment the United States has not, or is not calling this a war, you're right, because the United States and the Department of Defense have neither named these airstrikes. In every other conflict, we always name things. Operation Enduring Freedom, for example, and they're not doing that in this case.
This is a crusade. I'm fully convinced that we're living through a crusade part two, and we're going to have to admit that at some point. This is a religious, holy war, and we need to approach it that way. Now, speaking of approaching this war, China and Russia seem to be completely hands-off. Of course, they've both overtly and covertly kind of supported Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and of course they're big players in the UN. There's never going to be a United Nations resolution for this effort, this counterterrorism effort, as the president calls it, out of the UN, because they would block it, correct? So what are they doing instead of participating in this war?
They're doing what any good nation should do out of this war, and that's try to invest in what is out there for the world. The United States, its allies, we're currently just destructing the Middle East. We're just wiping out any kind of military installations, whatever it may be, roads, dams, bridges. We're out there doing that. And in the meantime, while we're participating in this holy war, as you call it, The Russians and the Chinese are in Africa, and they are investing in railroad tracks. They are in Afghanistan investing in rare earth minerals. They're in Nicaragua getting ready to, the Chinese are about to break ground with the Russian support here in December on a new Panama Canal that will actually be going through Nicaragua. It's going to take 5 years to construct, and then it'll be operational, and that will be something that they can get revenue from. So while they're looking at, supporting projects where it's going to come back and benefit their country, right, we are not looking that way down the road.
Yeah, we're not looking at the big picture,
no,
clearly, at least not with this administration. And before I let you go, you mentioned Afghanistan and the minerals there that China is mining. We just got word of an agreement out of the so-called co-presidents in Afghanistan that pertains to U.S. troops.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the new dual presidents there in Afghanistan have agreed to a status of forces unit. They'll be leaving just under 10,000 American troops as well as a few NATO troops behind in Afghanistan at a cost of over $8 billion per year to the United States taxpayers again. And it's also, very, very important to highlight here that we've covered this story here on the Ledger Show, as well as, back in January, that the intelligence community said that despite the U.S. staying behind in Afghanistan, by 2017, the Taliban will be running Afghanistan. And as we know, we just released those 5 prisoners from Guantanamo, and they're of Taliban origin.
All that spilled American blood for naught. It's just awful.
Yeah.
Kimberly, thank you.